Welcome to another episode of Ask a Brother podcast. I'm your host, Jeff St. James, and we're going to have a whole host of different people from different backgrounds coming in because it really is about building a community of like-minded people that's just open to listening and hearing from other perspectives. The revolution is going to be because of us.
Astounding show of support today for Lindsay Clancy. Hundreds of women, all dressed in pink, cheered the accused mom as she arrives in a police caravan for her murder trial. Supporters ran across the field to greet Lindsay. Some came with their babies. They held up heart hands during a silent rally for the mom who strangled her 3 young children, then jumped from the second-floor window, leaving her paralyzed for life.
It's a buzz around here, guys.
Fox News legal analyst Chanley Painter, a former prosecutor, actually wore pink in her live report as she spoke to Lindsay's defense attorney, who was greeted with cheers.
Hey, guys. What do you think of the support for Lindsay Clancy out here?
I have no words.
No words?
It's amazing.
The rally for Lindsay Clancy is not just in Plymouth, Massachusetts, where the trial is being held. There are gatherings across the USA today, including here in New York, in Union.
People that are upset and believe that she killed her 3 children and she should be convicted, what would be your message to them?
I'm so grateful for you that you never experienced even remotely what women experience in postpartum.
Yeah, and admittedly, she did admit to killing them, but the woman you see now is completely different from the woman who did that to her kids. And I think it's really difficult for people to hold to truths that may seem opposite simultaneously. She can be a wonderful, loving mother, and she did this horrible thing that she was so sick. I mean, I've seen the testimony every day. I can see how devastated she is, and I believe her. I believe her.
Psychology around this case became visible on August 20th when hundreds of supporters, many in pink, gathered outside the courthouse. Shirts read, "Believe," "She needed help," and "Peace for Lindsay." Supporters made heart-shaped hands, prayed, and claimed it could have been any one of them. The reaction and debates that have followed the case are what I find far more important. One female ex-user claimed that after watching the trial play out, not only am I convinced that we should repeal the 19th Amendment, but we should also limit women's interactions online. To which another woman replied, "Imagine applying this logic to a man. Every time a man commits an act of violence, should we reconsider men's voting rights? Restrict their internet access? Of course not, because we understand that one individual's actions do not justify stripping civil liberties from an entire sex. Except there are a couple problems with this counter-reasoning. First, not all acts of violence are equal in nature. If a man kills a home intruder threatening his family, he's rightfully declared a hero. If a man kills his family, he's rightfully declared a monster. Second, the act of violence committed by Clancy may have been individual, but the support is collective. The mass sympathy for the individual's monstrous actions cannot be ignored. So let's reframe this scenario and see how it would play out. Imagine an ex-NFL player suffering from CTE brutally murdered his 3 children. One could understand his legal team leaning on the violence-inducing brain trauma as a defense, except it's inconceivable that hundreds of men would show up in person, backed by thousands, if not millions, online, to paint him as the primary victim to be empathized with. Even if one was to empathize with the CTE sufferer, it'd likely come in a similar manner to Of Mice and Men. Lenny Small is an enormous, physically powerful man with the mind and emotional understanding of a young child. He starts stroking the hair of a man named Curly's wife, who then panics and screams, causing Lenny to become frightened. This oversized man-child responds by shaking her too forcefully and accidentally breaking her neck. George, Lenny's closest companion, realizes that Lenny cannot understand or control his own strength, and that similar tragedies will keep happening. He also knows that an angry mob led by Curly will seek revenge for the dead woman in a brutal fashion. To spare him from torture or capture, George comforts him by describing their dream farm. especially the rabbits Lenny hopes to tend to, and while imagining that happy future, George shoots him in the back of the head. That is about all the sympathy I have for someone who murders the innocent and defenseless, much less children who look at you as their primary source of love and protection.
All right. Welcome everyone to another episode of Ask a Brother Podcast. I'm your host, Jeff St. James, and let's get those likes up, people, and appreciate everybody that's been showing love and support. As you know, I have some major announcements coming up very, very, very soon. So stay tuned for that. But like I said before, if you can, please make sure that you like this. Please make sure that you share it with at least 2, 3, 4, or even 5 people. And let's jump into the thick of things. Let's see who's in the building. And if you haven't, make sure that you obviously make sure that you're a subscriber if you haven't done so. But feel free to comment and let me know that you're in the building. Let's see who's here. King Cian, what's going on, good sir? Chaos Rain, what's going on, good brother? This is wild. Absolutely, man. Just looking at the fact that Shorty was able to pull out a crowd. She was able to pull out a crowd of supporters for taking the life of her 3 children. So I'm definitely going to speak to that. And of course, we have the ladies' table in about an hour and a half at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So make sure you hit that notification bell if you guys have not done so. And feel free to hit the super chat button. I see somebody else has already done that so far if you want to just show love. And like I said before, please make sure that you guys like and at least send this to at least 2, 3, 4, or even 5 people. Let's see. Geo for show. Lindsay and supporters is why surrogacy and single fatherhood is the safest alternative for fathers and their kids. Modern women are too unstable, even the Christian ones. It is scary. I'm not going to lie to you. It is absolutely scary to see the amount of women who are jumping through hoops to put the blame on everyone else other than her. Which is it's insane to see. It's insane to see. They're blaming doctors, they're blaming nurses, they're blaming parents, they're blaming him, her ex-husband. They're blaming everybody but the person who actually did it. And again, I'm going to speak to what it is that I think from a psychological lens is probably going on and why so many women are gravitating to doing this. Even when I watched this thing, and let's see if we can listen to.
He did admit to killing them, but the woman you see now is completely different from the woman who did that to her kids.
I hope y'all really got to start when we say believe all women or at least listen to all women. This is a really good example of that. If you listen carefully to what she said, the woman that did it at that time is not the woman that is sitting before us in court today. It's the same argument that's used when it comes to body count for why you can't judge women for their past. You can't judge them for their past actions. You can't judge them for their past decisions, past statements. And it almost comes off like women are able to transform in and out of states of guilt based off of how they presently feel. So if I feel bad for her, then we can't treat her like she's guilty. If I feel bad for them, like oh man, this is going to be cool for sure. So again, everybody, if you haven't done so, please make sure that you comment and let me know that you're in the building, and comment and let me know what y'all think. And feel free to hit the super chat button. And like I said, we will be getting into some of the psychology as well as the overall message that I think these women are sending to the nation and country. Yeah, let's see who else is here. Chaos Rain. Yes. Ooh, Dolo TV 92. Thank you for this comment. Men when on a first date, ask the women, what are your thoughts on Lindsay Clancy? Save yourself some time. Ooh. I would argue you need to ask these questions before the date. Why waste your time or theirs? They have no problem having their litany of questions to disqualify men that they think they're incompatible with. And I think as men, it's got to be scary if you're a single dude just to watch and observe and see, how many women are defending this. We're going to get to the ridiculousness in terms of some of the performative nature of what these women are doing with turning the cameras on and throwing ice at and having their kids in their hands while they're talking about it could have been me murdering my own children. Like, it's just, it's scary, man. So let's see. Banana bread says the women have lost the plot. The women have lost the plot. So listen, you know what? Let's start with that. Let's start with a couple clips that kind of reflects that, and then we're going to jump into seeing what, I'm going to react to that and see what you all think.
This week was a bad look for women. First, an absolute moron on the internet said this.
My truest thought on this is that I think that trans women have a more beautiful understanding what womanhood is.
I agree.
I think that...
What? Wrong. Incorrect. Then Lindsay Clancy was put on trial for strangling her 5-year-old, 3-year-old, and 8-month-old with exercise bands. And women on the internet responded by posting solidarity videos with her, throwing ice at bathtubs to release their rage, and by protesting on the killer's behalf outside of her courtroom. Everybody needs committed. Then a North Dakota mother the throats of her 3-year-old, 1-year-old, and 5-month-old after telling the dad to say goodbye to the kids. The only child to survive was the 1-year-old named Colton. I mean, this is despicable. What is going on? Also this week, a crazy chick posted a video of herself to social media pouring hot wax on her children, lighting her house on fire, and twerking. Oh, and it turns out that she's also an illegal alien from Cuba. So she's been arrested and detained. Then there's Jessica Bowie, who apparently went from blue-haired lib to full-fledged supporter. She was just arrested for plotting to bomb the New York State Capitol and then flee to the Middle East. What a perfect use of free will. I should point out here that as of 2020, according to Pew Research, over 50% of liberal women under the age of 30 reported having a mental health condition. And then this week, the governor of New Jersey signed a bill effectively banning Christians from praying outside of abortion clinics, and she did that with a smile. And last week, the Massachusetts governor signed a bill allowing women to terminate the pregnancy up to the point of birth. In America, there are more than 1 million each year, and if it were counted as a cause of death, it would be number 1 by leaps and bounds. Also, here's what a baby looks like at 20 weeks. 20 weeks, heartbeat. She's a girl. So, great job, ladies. We cannot define what a woman is, but we think trans dudes have a better understanding of what womanhood is. We defend mothers who their children, and for every 3.2 live births in America, there is 1. Also, we're unhappier than we've ever been. Even though, as this person points out, we won. Men are doing terribly. Women are doing amazing. We make more money. We have lower rates of addiction, alcoholism. We live longer. We can fly fighter planes and be in combat. Marriage is optional. Divorce is no fault. We win over 99% of custody battles. We control fertility at will and can't get drafted. But we're unmarried and we're unhappy. So, just another week here of modern feminism destroying womanhood.
Women are unhappy. And yet again, we're finding ways to blame everybody but women reaping the consequences of their own actions. Now, with that said, I don't want to be careless or callous when it comes to a very serious discussion when it comes to postpartum depression and psychosis and a whole host of things. But the problem is, I'm going to argue straight off the rip that this isn't really strictly a mental health issue. I think that's the umbrella term that everybody's using. The first issue is that a lot of these women are now using an institution that shields them from the accountability of their regrets, their bad decisions, their inability to control or manage their own hormones and emotions. And now they have a safety valve to yet again be allowed to unfortunately get away with some of the most insane, heinous acts. Now, to clarify, if everybody was watching earlier, the key people that we were watching earlier, and if you've seen even the clips online when they constantly say, this is starting to function more like a cult. So as I kind of dissect some of the different archetypes of women that I think this kind of applies to, the first one I'm going to list off is the cult. The cult of women. And it's almost like a cult of personality. And what happens is when they get into a cult-like state, they'll support the person who can do or say anything, particularly and especially just simply put because they're a woman. Doesn't matter what she does, doesn't matter what she says, no matter how she carries herself, they're always going to almost, in a strange way, I think the reason why the studies have kind of reflected why men seem to be much more okay with justice being administered than many women is that there's something about female psychology that allows them to empathize and see themselves as the person who's doing even the most heinous of crimes or acts. So people who are doing illegal acts like coming into the country illegally, putting their hands on children, deleting children, it doesn't kind of matter if they can sense something in there that they can kind of sense in themselves. It's almost like they want to lessen the burden of responsibility and accountability that comes with them. So the first issue, I think, is the model of feminism itself. Feminism was one of the things that I think feminism was set up to do was design from an institutional level, let alone cultural, but an institutional level. If you're telling women that the highest ideal is liberation, freedom, and autonomy, that includes from responsibility and accountability. How can a woman truly be free, and how can she truly be liberated if she's responsible for how she conducts herself in the marriage? So we need a safety valve for her to get out of that. How can a woman truly be as liberated or as free as possible if she's going to be held accountable or responsible for children that she either at one point had or didn't want anymore? And this is where abortion or even postnatal deletions are coming into the picture. Think about it. When we talk about like abortion, for instance, and we have this back and forth argument of like, oh, men shouldn't have a conversation about it. Well, when we've left women to their own devices, what ended up happening? Was it Massachusetts just in the last 2 weeks or so? We finally passed the governor just passed a late term abortion bill. The very thing that we kept saying was coming and happening is now unfortunately happening. The same women who are running and grasping for straws for any explanation for why she and any and every woman that does this, there has to be an excuse. So, she, such and such was a Gemini versus a this or that. Like, they're always going to use some type of mental gymnastics and voodoo to try to get a woman to get out of reaping the consequences of their own bad decisions and behavior. Now, Pearl, I'm going to play this when it comes to a little bit as it relates to, let me see if I can find it, this whole concept of women regretting certain things. And Pearl's going to argue that, the kind of depression, if somebody in the chat, I'm having a brain fart at the moment, but the particular depression that they're talking about right now, that kind of happens right after or soon after birth or whatever, that this is actually now often being used or is often being used as a euphemism for really post-nut clarity that women have once they've had the child or multiple children, and then they realize the life and responsibilities that they actually have. So let's watch this and see what you think.
Women are loyal to Lindsay Clancy, not just because she's a woman, but most importantly because all the women are. So the group decided, and now you're against the group. It's not about her.
Yeah, but it makes sense when you think about it, because women don't want to reproduce with average men. So that's what this is about. It's women saying we do not want to reproduce with average guys. That's why we're going to college. That's why we're fighting for abortion. And that's why we're fighting for Lindsay Clancy to be able to murder her kids after she has them, is because women do not want to reproduce with average men. And having children for women is like post-nut clarity for men. So like, you guys think you like a girl. A lot of times you might have the best intentions and then you hit, oh shit, I don't even like you like that. Women are like that with marriage and kids.
Women are most important.
Bro. That's it. When they have regrets or they don't want to be held accountable for the decisions and choices in life and the life that they've chosen, what they're claiming and clinging to, this is actually, I'm going to just term it postnatal regret. Postnatal regret. So obviously, if they get pregnant and before they have the child, they have the abortion valve when they have regrets. I think it's 1% of those are actually rape, sexual assault cases or whatever. So overwhelmingly, these are more often than not elective. And there's a small percentage that probably deals with like actual medical emergencies, especially once you get to the second and past the second trimester. So a lot of these women are using this this specific type of depression that they're clinging and claiming it's not that some of them don't have certain symptoms, but what we're really getting at is, I think we're now coming to grips with the reality of the full spectrum of female nature when they're given the full gambit of being able to do literally anything. Postnatal regret. And the regret is usually one of two reasons. The regret is either one, that she simply regrets having the child or children that she currently has, or she regrets having the child or children with the man that she's had that child or children with. Here, the entire model of feminism only works if women are truly able to be liberated in all forms of society. This is why they'll never push or advocate for equal sentencing. This is why they would never dare push for them signing up to be part of the draft as well. This is why they know that there's less responsibilities on their hands on a societal level. They won't equalize any of the hard stuff. But when it comes to something like this, they pride themselves on claiming to be more nurturing. But the stats are in. If we set aside the abortions and just look at the malnourishment and maltreatment of children, they're beating men very easily. So I think the initial thing that we have to come to grips with as a society, or at least as men, is when you see the women out there that hears and sees and learns the news of a triple murder that a woman admitted to, that her lawyer confirmed, that her own family members confirmed, or former family members confirmed, that she confirmed after the incident, and 3 years later she filed a lawsuit to the medical practitioners stating in that letter that she did it and that they're complicit in her being able to act, out of control. These women vote. These women are teachers. These women are professors, therapists, psychologists. Y'all, I gotta wonder, just as a clarification, man, I gotta wonder seriously, do you ever wonder about the men, when you look at the crowd of people that was standing next to her, or not next to her, but out in the crowd supporting all these women in shirts, pink shirts, and just out there marching, protesting, and the whole nine, standing in solidarity for her, throwing ice and doing all this performative stuff on camera. How do you think they vote? It's a serious question. How do you think the women, what do you think the women that think this way, what do you think their stance is on the border? On ICE? On drag queen story time in schools? In schools focusing less on academics and more on social justice and activism? How do you think they vote? And my question is, what's wrong with the men that think just like them? Because a lot of times everybody wants to reduce things to, well, racism and black and white and this and that. Y'all can't see how society is unraveling with this particular group of individuals at the helm, literally dictating and controlling massive parts of our society. These people are daycare workers. And if you're just pro the matriarchy, let's tear down the patriarchy, women need to be in the driver's seat, are you starting to see the potential that women also have a dual nature as well? Are you still so trusting to where you can see them take life in the womb, excuse taking life out of the womb, always justify spinning any forms of accountability and responsibility on men, but still wanting all the same perks of rights and authority and ability to shape how society is going? I'm curious about the men that actually agree and walk hand in hand with women who think and move this way. Now, one of the things that I'm going to argue, that a lot of this is actually related to the abortion issue. So I'm going to play that real quick, and then I'm going to see what you guys think.
Not for late-term abortion, period.
Nowhere in America
is a woman carrying a pregnancy to term and asking for an abortion. That is not happening. It's insulting to the women of America.
I think when you separate and propagandize and convince women long enough to go completely against their nature and give them perks to do so, it shouldn't be that shocking that you see women cheering and supporting and wanting to be an ally for the Lindsay Clancy cause. Dehumanization. If you can convince them that something that's living, living and with a heart beating inside of them, as it grows, it's still functionally irrelevant until they decide that it is. Why do you think that a light bulb or switch of humanity just switches on the moment the child is out of the womb? If they are, again, if they're doing whole applauses for late-term abortions, why are we shocked or surprised about why? Seriously, think about this. If you have figured out a way to help women have a dehumanized view of life and of their womb and of children and of infants and fetuses or whatever you want to call, why are you shocked then? If they're smiling, look at the screen, look at the screen, look at the screen, smiling, cheering, clapping, happy, you would think this was their civil rights moment. This is their civil rights moment, apparently. Gentlemen, y'all better wake up. All y'all black men that's on the side of people on the screen, is your voting record reflecting women that act and move like this? Because we just played the clip when Trump, during the 2024 presidential debate, said it both to Biden and said it to VP Harris, Kamala. No one's doing that. We're not working towards that. No one's trying to do that. It's disrespectful. That here we are. Here we are. I don't think those of you who keep voting blue no matter who keep running to the left and keep voting with people who don't see the humanity in those whose lives they're snuffing out. This is almost bigger than politics, is what I'm arguing. I'm just curious that if you keep aligning yourself with the people who keep passing these type of bills, telling potential groomers and people who are crazy inappropriate for wanting to be around and dress in inappropriate ways in front of children, yeah, go ahead and do story time. Why would they? Every time you give them an inch, they take a mile. This collective, the left, whatever you want to label them as, feminists, the left, progressives, you name it, they keep going beyond when we say this is enough. And then you're shocked when you see hundreds of thousands of millions. They raised $1 million. They raised $1 million for a white woman that snuffed out her own 3 kids. And admitted to it. Admitted to it. So, where's this taking us, man? And where's this going to go, man? Let me look at this real quick. R2K, No Heroes, 2024, 20,000 total homicides, black women alone, 300 to 400,000 abortions. Wow, I need to look into that. I know the total population is a little around 1 million, so that they may not be too far off from the truth, unfortunately. Oof. Any woman that supports Lindsay Clancy is telling you that she might or will bleep your children, full stop. So when we were warning in the Black Manosphere, when we were warning as men, as male advocates, as men's rights advocates, well, you name it, as just as men, and when we were warning and saying what's happening and what's coming, you all didn't take it seriously. When we keep trying to tell you this was infiltrating, when these Black women were bragging and encouraging other Black women to get abortions if they find out they're going to have a male child, bro, I understand now more why men are becoming way more selective about the reality of how when people were coming on this platform and saying 20 to 30% of women were even marriage material. I'm going to change that. No. 20 to 30% of women may even be safe enough to even be around in the workplace, in a relationship. We set aside marriage and the whole consequences that comes from that. This is insane. This is insane. And the only way it's going to change is one of two ways. One way is politically, and the other way is through revolution, whatever that looks like. And I'm going to argue that we're not going to get there politically if the men that keep voting with the same crazy, cultish groups that thinks like this continue doing so. Is it because of your hate of Trump? Is it because of your hate of the right? Is it you're anti people who think third party? I don't know what's going on with you, but the UK, they just started releasing pamphlets all over the UK for the undocumented people that they've let in that's been filing for asylum, that's been raping and sexually assaulting women, to tell them not to do it. Guess who voted for that to be a thing? Almost every horrifically bad policy in all of the ways in which people are able to skirt the law. Who's voting for it, man? Who's voting for it? Geo, Lindsay and supporters is why witch hunts exist. You know what? Let's go to the witch hunt thing, because I actually saw a comment, and this is the second. And remember what I said before: when the highest tiered goal and expectation and value is women's liberation, freedom, and autonomy, and freedom from all forms of accountability and responsibility. Them being held accountable for their actions is seen as oppression and a witch hunt. You'll see what I mean. One sec.
What they're doing is they're letting every single woman in America know that if you do something like this, this is going to be your punishment. You don't actually get to get the mental help you need. And I've heard this in my comment section. This is the point, that this is the witch trials.
There's, bro, let me play it again, because maybe I heard it crazy. Maybe I'm just looking too much into it. The woman took the life of 3 of her own children, clearly had some level of planning involved, admitted to it. Her own lawyers admitted to it. 3 years later, neither side of the aisle is saying that she didn't do it, including herself. She based a lawsuit this year on confirming that she did it, let alone the things that she confirmed with a variety of different medical professionals afterwards. And what did she say was going to happen if she was held accountable?
I think what they're doing is they're letting every single woman in America know that if you do something like this, this is going to be your punishment. You don't actually get to get the mental help you need. And I've heard this in my comment section. This is the point, that this is the witch trials.
Listen, I don't know who's seen The Handmaid's Tales. I used to always joke around and say that's not going to happen. I'm going to say something controversial. The Muslims might have been on to something and knowing about Sharia law. Because the more freedom, look at what is happening on a societal and cultural level. We can't, our birth rates are declining. abortion at will. I'm surprised we don't have abortion drive-throughs yet, because it's such a haphazard thing. This is bad, y'all. This is really, really, really bad. Really bad. And to let you know, when it comes to the dehumanization of life and what's in the womb, I'm going to play this clip to let you know why, when you keep teaching them that they're equating taking life with, well, that's just reproductive health. It's just reproductive rights. It's just they're coming up with all the sanitized language to kind of excuse what it is that they're doing and getting away with. So that when somebody actually does the worst thing possible, she's the one that's suffering. Have you noticed that the women who are raising the $1 million, the women who have all this sympathy and empathy, they almost never are referencing her children? They can only empathize with other, they cannot empathize with children anymore. They're completely disconnected from their own nature. They are disconnected from children. We've been past the whole phase of man bashing, hating on men and misandry and all. We've kind of accepted that culturally, you know. But to see the lengths of what this has done to their minds, you can't keep convincing me that something I'm the only one that has a right to take the life of suddenly has all this meaning or value if I'm the arbiter whether or not its life even matters. Why would that stop once they're out of the womb? Now, gentlemen, I'm going to argue a few things. If she gets away with this, in a sense of she doesn't get life in prison, they order her to insanity, and basically she can stay in the hospital for who knows how much time. The excuse of women should still be viewed as the automatic custodial parents, I think as men, we're going to have some legal grounds between the maltreatment of children, between the abuse of children, between the abortion rates, between situations like this. This case is going to set a precedent one way or another. And you all have already seen what this is and is looking like. I think there may be a legal argument that we need to go back to aggressively reducing who it is that has as much say in this country. Don't know what that looks like, by the way. I'm just fully aware that if we're waiting for the men that's continuing to support these women, standing alongside these women, voting just like these women, and allowing these insane policies and laws to continue, I don't know, y'all. I think that we're pushing the remaining common sense people into we're pushing people into a corner. And we've been allowing the crazes to kind of run the hospital for quite some time now. But watch this.
Lie again and again.
What have I lied about?
Even if it is killing,
What have I lied about?
I don't give a fuck if it's killing because she can do that. It's her body. I don't care.
No, it's not her body. It's
yes,
its own
it is.
separate body. What have I lied about?
Even if it is killing,
What have I lied about?
I don't give a fuck if it's killing.
They told on themselves, gentlemen. They don't care what you call it. They just want the right to do it. This is why they're so offended at the idea of us wanting a woman to be held accountable in a situation like this. You do know that of all the situations and cases where men have actually wilded out, and they would have had more anger and more energy for a man that struck a woman than a woman who took the life of her 3 children, one by one by one, by strangulation. We have to stop viewing everybody as a team. So when I've said it for well over a year now, I've been saying it from 2025 all the way through this year, and everybody would jump in my comments and do the whole stop bringing up politics and conservatives have their issues and Republicans are racist and this and that. As a male, as a man, I am telling you, I am warning you that there are women who have a mindset. There's women who have a mindset that they are always justified no matter what based on how they feel. They will end a marriage. They'll terminate a pregnancy. They will terminate your kids based on how they feel. And overwhelmingly, the group that votes the most and advocates the most and is the loudest the most are liberal women. The fact that the majority of the Black community happens to be liberal women, it just happens to be. The fact that a huge percentage of white women happen to be liberal, it just happens to be. These are the most unhinged women on the planet. And y'all are giving them children. You want to know how to start off, how to screen better? See if she was advocating and supporting this woman. Y'all love Lindsay Clancy so much, ladies. Would you let her babysit? Huh? Would you let her babysit? Since you care so much? Gentlemen, would you rather Lindsay Clancy watch your kids or a bear? We got to be honest now. I'm arguing that women who think there should be no limit to abortion, women that always have excuses, women who always excuse misandry, women who have gender-based hatred for half the sex, pride themselves on not repopulating the human population that they're a part of, being anti everything that's needed for a society to survive, let alone thrive. You cannot date or procreate or do life with these women. I have some liberal views in certain areas and I have some conservative views in some areas, but I am saying as a man, a woman that sees this and still stands on that side of the aisle, identifies as that, holds up the flag, does all the protests and marches, talks about 4B, abort if you find out you got a male child, cheering if the cops take out another Black man. It's all one and the same. It's all one and the same, man. These people are cheering for mass deletions. I want you to imagine a person who is a mass shooter running into a church, running into a school, running into a grocery store, movie theater, and wiping out a whole bunch of people because they were an emotional fit. Let's say it was a guy. His testosterone is through the roof. Maybe he's on some substances, antipsychotics or something. Nobody would say and run around in crowds and say, we got to support this guy that just took out 30 people, right? Women do it all the time. They got girlfriends that's habitual Planned Parenthood visitors, whole memberships, quarterly check-ins. Bro, here's a tip for young men. If your wife says Lindsay Clancy is innocent, you should immediately divorce and get full custody of your children. Gentlemen, y'all better get real and serious. When I'm arguing, when I say if you're going to deal with women at baseline, she can't be a liberal or progressive, is because she doesn't even have a mind of her own. Her mind belongs to the algorithm. Her mind is a part of the hive mind. Most of these women that are doing all this stuff, in my mind, personally, I think it's performative. I actually think it's performative. I think part of this is about consensus and wanting to fit in with the pack, especially from a psychological lens, and not wanting to stand, not wanting to be the odd woman out. And we're going to look at some of these examples of what I think is absolutely just straight out women just being quote unquote performative. And this is the beginning stages of, can she never keep stuff off the internet? Does she always have to perform for the female attention? For female approval? regardless of what it does to those around her? They're turning the cameras on. They're turning the cameras on to perform for other women to make it known I'm a part of the crew. I'm a part of the sisterhood. I too am mourning, not for the 3 children that's gone, but for Lindsay Clancy.
I deserve to be freaking heard. So
She's saying she deserves to be freaking heard on the internet. She says she deserves to be freaking heard on the internet. Y'all see these women? And you look superficially just because they look okay? I got a theory, man, when it comes to Lindsay Clancy supporters. I'm going to touch on that in a little bit. Let me finish watching this clip.
I am completely overwhelmed trying to take care of the kids. I'm drowning every day. It's miserable. Like I'm desperate to get a mental break from taking care of everyone.
okay, guys.
They're holding their children and their babies while they're saying that they acknowledge having the same thoughts and feelings as the woman that... Oh my God, this is this is allowed. Allowing mass abortion while having a below replacement rate seems, the globalists are winning. The CIA is winning. Rashad, man, this is wicked, wicked times we're in, man. Wicked, wicked times we're in. This is, woo, jeez. Miss Couture, welcome back. $5. Why is it I can understand the language is not correct, but others are being confused about what this is? They want to be fooled at this point. I don't think they're fooled. I think they know that they have an unusual level of power that they didn't earn. They know that society is allowing them to get away with more than men. And to acknowledge or admit that women have gone too far means that they're going to lose something. For anyone to say, let's not do late term, let's go back prior to 24 weeks. They're not, I told you, every time you give them an inch, they never want to go back. There's no such thing in an ideology that's preaching and teaching women that anyone that tries to hold you accountable or responsible for anything you no longer want to be held or responsible or accountable for, that is oppressive. That is slavery. This is why holding women to their vows is now seen as oppressive. And slavery. Remember Leslie Jones? Marriage might as well just be slavery. Kids, the way they talk about children. Y'all gonna listen, man. If you're still in the chat, if you're still watching right now, please make sure that you like this. Make sure you send this to at least 2, 3, or even 4 people. We're almost at 400 people concurrently watching. Thank you, Gito, for the 2 jewels and the 100. And then SX Moneymakers. When they dehumanize children as clumps of cells, it's not surprising that this is happening. Boom. Boom. So when we were having, thank you for the $4.99. So when I was trying to say that one of the categories, one of the archetypes of women are those that are antinatalists. Obviously, these are all feminists. Some of them I obviously mentioned before are conformists, where they're just trying to fit in with whatever the current norms are, what women are agreeing to. The idea that Jeff was able to walk into a woman's restroom or coveted space, some women would feel very uncomfortable in 2012, 2008. Now I just have to say the right magic words, maybe put on a wig, and self-declare, and that's sufficient. And now all the women will be inside. You're seeing it now in the WNBA. They're voting, gentlemen. They are determining who can come in and out of the country. They're voting on policies of how far they're allowed to take life. And they keep telling you, you have no say in the matter. Let's continue this.
She can do that. It's her body. I don't care.
No, it's not her body. It's
Yes,
its own
it is.
separate
No,
body.
See, that's why I can't do
This
this.
is a
I can't
separate
do
body.
this. Because you're lying. You just lied. That is a lie. It's
How
my
is this a
body.
part of a woman's
You're
body?
holding up a fucking rubber baby, and I'm supposed to take
This is a
this
second
seriously?
trimester baby. This is
I
a
can't
model of
take
a
this seriously. You're lying. You're lying. Everything.
This is a model of a second trimester baby.
One more thing.
This is a model of a second trimester baby. This baby is a separate body from the woman's body. I support a woman's right over her own body. She can do whatever she wants. But this baby has its own body. This baby deserves their own bodily autonomy, which should begin at conception.
A room full of women seeing what she's holding in her hands, yelling and arguing with her about their right to murder it. And y'all think we are still a functioning civil society? Come on, fellas. I'm not even talking to the ladies, because at the end of the day, I'm wondering about the women who don't even agree, or the women who agree with the person who's holding it and being like, this is wrong, this is bad. How many of them are actually willing to vote like it? How many of them are actually willing to cut off relationships with women who are like the crowd?
This is bat crap crazy. It just is. This isn't about postpartum hormones or the struggles of motherhood or parsing out the legal definition of insanity in a criminal trial. You can have questions over how culpable Lindsay Clancy was in her actions and still not venerate her like a saint. This is absolutely bizarre. This is women taking the time to set up a camera in their bathroom and chuck ice into their shower or beat a pillow against a wall or whatever in some grand show of their maternal suffering. Nothing about that is real. This is performative nonsense being done for internet clout, and I'm calling it out.
Yo, think about it this way. And I appreciate the creator that kind of covered this when she said that they're treating her like a saint. Now, you know, I went to Philadelphia Biblical University and got a bachelor's in biblical studies, and I took church history and everything. When I recall what a saint is, typically a saint was someone who sacrificed and often lost their life for a good cause. She survived and took the life of her children, and they are venerating her as a saint. I think what we're in, man, and shout out to L.A. Coleman for this. I think that we are in what's called late stage feminism. This is where the movement is running out of hills to die on, running out of things to stand on, and now has to continue to create new areas of territory that's going past sanity, normalcy, even humanity. Somebody said the great reset for men is happening. The first, fellas, one of the first things y'all got to reevaluate is it's not just about dealing with women or not dealing with women. It's about, are you donating to sperm banks, gentlemen, for the money? I know it may be great money, gentlemen, but if you are giving these women the ability to circumvent a family and a relationship by being able to run to a sperm bank, you're creating you're adding to this. You're adding to this, gentlemen. Think about it. Because if they can't run to the sperm banks and they can't run to the men, women who think like this cannot reproduce. And we got to deal with the secondary question of, well, what if they can't reproduce, but if they're reproducing their ideology in the schools and the college, that's a whole nother department. But at least they're not raising children in an environment where they are teaching their youth to think that this is normal. Jeez, this is insane, man. All right, y'all. So I'm not going to hold you too long because I do know in the next 30 minutes I'm going to be doing the ladies' table, and I have a whole bunch more clips that I have sitting that I have not played yet. But let's do the more performative part.
Hey, honey, I'm hot. Don't tell me you're crying on camera again. What are you crying about this time? But no one's even following you. Why are you doing this? Well, I think I got to go back to work. You keep filming yourself.
So this one is great because I think what it shows is as more and more women are moving towards trying to seek validation via social media and are trying to become content creators or just having these random ass outbursts that literally has nothing to do with them, you need to see that as a warning sign about what's to come. Gentlemen are getting smarter now when it comes to dating, where it's like, listen, if you are trying to go out on a date with a woman and she's kind of recording the whole experience, or she's giving her updates to like 1,000 people or 2,000, 3,000 people based off of whether she liked you or didn't like you, you know what that could lead to if you continue to proceed with her and things go south. Hell, you see what this is like when women stay in marriages and still out their husbands. Will Smith, Akash, what's the boy name? The basketball player, the shooter. You know what I'm talking about. Curry, Steph Curry, Aisha. Yeah, same concept. Same concept. Women who see the internet as a journal and seeking the need of validation of their female counterparts and peers. A lot of this stuff is performative, man. A lot of this stuff is performative. So of the different types that I've kind of thought about, when I say that right now we're in an environment of what I again coin as late stage feminism. This is where their ideology becomes to get more extreme. They start to become and function more like a cult. They are fully anti-natal, anti-men, anti-marriage, anti-nuclear family. They are damn near 100% conformists, and they have a dehumanized view of humanity. The only value they see is in the women that agree with them politically. They'll throw a woman who wants certain restrictions on abortion under the bus. She's a pick me, and they think she's a traitor. Women who vote differently. If a woman says she's conservative, she's a traitor. So they have a dehumanized view of everybody else, and the only ones that are allowed to experience an unabashed level of humanity that shouldn't be controlled, shouldn't be stifled, shouldn't be strapped or chained to their own responsibilities or accountability of things that they even agreed to or did. Man. Let's see. I got a couple super chats in here. Hey, we have Masonic, Mason Inc. Thank you for the $50. This is evil. Behold, misandric, feminist, Frankenstein monsters. Yeah, man. Absolutely. And I appreciate you for the $50 banger. And like I said, everybody, in the next 30 minutes, I'm going to be hopping on with the ladies for ladies table. So please make sure go ahead and get a bite to eat, because you're not going to want to miss this. We may even have some additional panelists pulling up as well. We have Laura Giatron. Thank you for the $5. Brother Jeff, may I join you really quick? I have a PSA. I won't violate the TOS. By the way, salute to you and yours. So I can't today because I'm actually about to wrap things up, but I do appreciate you for the $5 for sure. But when I do more open panels relating to this stuff, we may open it more to the public for sure. Gio, thank you for the 2 jewels and 100 again. And then Kane Marco, $10. Feminism has proved to be nothing but destructive to society and their mental health. Every single society in history knew who should be restricted from making important decisions. Remember Schrodinger's feminists, y'all. They are both empowered, but they are both a victim and oppressed, and they will pick the status based off of which one is most advantageous. So she's a mother. She's strong, hear me roar, hardest job in the world, and she can't control herself from eliminating and strangling her own 3 children. And she shouldn't be held accountable for it. According to them, her husband should. Everybody else should but her, actually. In fact, they see her as a victim by what she's going through right now that she caused. Did you hear them referencing the family members and his birth signs as a justification for why who is innocent, who's guilty? These people vote. These people vote, man. This is why debating doesn't make sense for the most part. The prefrontal logical side of the brain is not even, it's offline, people. It's pure emotion. There's no reason or rationality to this at this point. So what is this going to lead to? What is this going to lead to if women en masse continue to go at the direction they're going in? Where everything that's supposed to protect them and society and families and the family unit and marriages, they want to get rid of, eradicate, and just turn us into the Wild Wild West. Well, I'm going to play a couple clips to see what the eventual warning sign is. And gentlemen, I think we're in territory where some tough decisions are probably going to have to be made. And I won't be shocked if the men that finally step up and do it aren't going to wait for a consensus from weak men and women to help change and stop a lot of this from happening.
About to say is going to cause you to have a lot of big feelings, and that's because it's true, but you're not going to like it. You cannot say that what Lindsay Clancy did was acceptable or understandable or treated as such because of her postpartum depression or psychosis, because what men are hearing in some women, even including myself, with the way some of you guys put it and even act, the way you act around this case, is you're basically saying that women are so emotional that they unalive their kids. And if women are so emotional that happens, we are too emotional to have rights. We are too emotional to vote. We are too emotional to make decisions about society. We are too emotional to make decisions about ourselves. Therefore, they are going to take our rights away. And I'm saying this to you as a fucking Republican who has a reasonable doubt about this case. You need to knock it off. Cases like this and your reaction to them is going to get women to have their rights taken away. Your rights are only as good as you can defend them. And the way you guys are acting, you're making it very hard to defend.
Lindsay Clancy supporters fully understand that if Lindsay Clancy is not held responsible for her alleged actions, that means that legally women will be on the same level as children, and it sets precedent. Children cannot be held accountable for their actions because they have diminished capacity, right? They don't fully understand what's going on. If you do the same for women, you're going to put women on the same level as children, which is a very dangerous precedent because that's how you get your rights taken away. If we're put on the same level as children and we can't be held accountable, we can't have the same rights. That can easily go from, oh, she was postpartum, she can't be held liable, she just needs blah, 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 to, women are so emotional, they shouldn't be allowed to vote or make decisions about themselves. That very quickly changes into that. So y'all need to knock it off.
Living in an epidemic of not good enough moms. And I don't mean what you think I mean by that. 1 in 7 women develop postpartum depression after giving birth. And 50% of those cases go completely undiagnosed because moms, they don't say anything. They just carry it. Now, researchers are starting to call this a disease of modernity. And when I read that, it clicked. See, for most of history, a new mom was never alone. Hunter-gatherer research shows that babies had 14 different caretakers in a single day. Think about it. Grandmothers, aunties, women from the community. Shared childcare was how our species was literally raised children for thousands of years. And then somewhere along the way, we decided that a mom, a dad, and a house in the suburbs was enough. That you could do this alone, in isolation, and be just fine. Well, a peer-reviewed paper published in the Oxford University Press made the case directly that postpartum depression rates are higher in post-industrial societies where we've removed the very support system human mothers evolved to depend upon. I watch my wife some days and I think she's not struggling because something is wrong with her. She's struggling because she was never supposed to do this alone. Share this with a mom. Tell her that she's not alone.
So, what do you think contributed to why women are feeling like they're having to do it alone. Maybe entering into workforces and only getting a short amount of time for maternity leave and having to leave their children. That's probably a contributing factor. And one of the quotes that reportedly was a big issue for this case involving Lindsay Clancy was her constantly struggling with saying she didn't want to leave her children. She didn't want to leave her kids to return back to work. And yeah, she had a nanny here and there at some point. It sounds like she had in-laws at some point, maybe his parents at some point. But the communal component of being around a large knit group of people, all of that kind of being offloaded on to her. Yeah, I actually can see a worldview of why women are struggling with psychosis, potentially with depression, with anxiety, with sleep issues, and how that can absolutely change anyone. The problem is that we have an institution that can't screen out women that actually legitimately feel these things versus women that are using these things as an excuse and means to be able to commit harm towards others. Because every single person that's a fan of hers and her lawyers are advocating for a psychosis she was never diagnosed with. So in the end, man, ladies, what did you actually win? Or what is it that you're trying to win? Because you're making the case that you can't be trusted around your own children, let alone other people's children. You're making the case that you don't see the benefits of continuing the human species. You will venerate the person that takes the life of the 3 children, but not the life of the 3 children. And you're hating the people that's questioning if women are going too far. Let me read this and close things out, man. B989, thank you for the $10. If women will disqualify you for voting Republican, we shall disqualify them for supporting Lindsay Clancy. And the crazy thing is I don't vote Republican, and I'm still a third party person. I'm actually part of the Green Party, but I want women to out themselves. And I think this is absolutely a great test to start. As a man, I don't care if you're liberal, if you're Democrat, if you're progressive, if you're conservative, if you're in the middle, if you're libertarian, whatever. If you are, I was about to say if you're single, if you are in a relationship, it may be time for you to start making some ulterior plans. If you cannot trust the woman that you're pursuing, connecting with, or doing life with. I know that if the roles are reversed, and they have been reversed, there will never, ever be a crowd of men standing behind a man that took the life of 3 of his own children and saying because of his PTSD and because of the drug companies, he should be treated with kitten gloves. These people are in our society, man. So I'm going to close things out, and I'll see y'all in about 20 minutes when it comes to the ladies' table. And I'm excited to see what the ladies have to say. So again, make sure you like this. Make sure you share or send this to at least 2 or 3, 4 people in the next 20 minutes. Once this wraps up, feel free to go ahead and get a bite to eat if you haven't done so. And tune in 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for our ladies' table. And I'll see y'all on the other side. Peace.
I know you all like stats, so let me give you some.
It's become mandatory in our culture to assume that the feminist movement has elevated women to the status that they now enjoy. I'm not so sure about that. I think that technological transformation and plumbing has had a lot more to do with that than ideological movement, let's say, especially one based on resentment. But in any case, it is the case that women occupy position in society that was unheard of 100 years ago. There's a downside to all of that. And the downside appears to be the mounting unhappiness among young women, the precipitous decline in birth rates, the collapse of marriage as a social institution and a spate of childlessness among young women, as well as the feminization of our institutions in a manner that often borders on the pathological. I discussed these issues today with Megan Kelly, a woman who's married, who has children, and who's had a stellar career. And we attempted to sort through these thorny issues and come to a conclusion about how men and women might conduct themselves in relationship to one another and what the consequences of that are for the way we think about ourselves in society. You've had a very successful career, and I'm kind of curious about how you've balanced your life and your work and how that's worked for you, and what advice you would give young women who are apparently struggling quite radically. Now, young men have their problems, and there's no doubt about that, but I think it's something in the neighborhood of 50 to 60% of liberal young women in particular between the ages of 18 and 34 who suffer from at least one diagnosable mental disorder, for example. And when polls show pretty consistently that since the 1960s, the average self-reported happiness of young women in particular has declined, and quite precipitously. So let's start with that.
Those are some stats for your ass.